Greetings comic book fans and welcome to the Dude Cave. I'm Jason and these are my comic book reviews for the 4th week of November 2015. It's a bit later than usual. Last week was just a crazy week. I swapped a day at work, I did overtime, so like that kind of changed the days I could do my reviews on. But then, you know, it also took me longer to finish my books because I had so many. It was a big week last week, 24 books. So yeah, it's just been one thing after another, but better late than never. I'm here now with my comic reviews. We're going to start this bad boy off with the comics of the week. Those are the 5 books that I've enjoyed most this week. Rapid fire reviews, we'll review the rest. We then have pick of the week, which is that one book that I enjoyed the most. And we're going to end this bad boy with company of the week. There'll be no rant of the week this week because I felt with 24 books the video is going to be long enough anyway. But hopefully rant of the week will make a triumphant return next week. So without further ado, let's get to those reviews. So we're going to kick this show off with the comics of the week. And first up from Valiant Comics we have Manowar issue number 42. Written by Robert Venditti with art by Rafa Sandoval. This issue is really good. It concludes the Exodus storyline. And they do a really good job of kind of concluding the story to make you feel you've got a complete story, but at the same time setting things up for the next story arc. So I think they got a really nice balance there. The thing I enjoyed most about this was our main character Eric and his decision, you know, because like war has broken out between the refugee Vine and Earth, and kind of Eric is torn because his armor has a spiritual link to the Vine, but then you've got like Earth is his home planet and he's happy here and they've done so much for him since he's come back, and it's kind of like he's torn. What do I do? Whose side do I fight on? So he tries to find an answer into what to do, and it's that kind of journey of him making his decision that is really fascinating, and I really enjoyed seeing him have to make that decision, and it was a great character piece for Eric. So yeah, this was another really good issue. I think right now I don't think there's a Valiant book I'm not enjoying. They're on a really hot streak. And yeah, Manowar issue number 42 is one of my comics of the week and would have got 5 out of 5. So next up we have All New Wolverine issue number 2. I really enjoyed the first issue of this, and this issue was again, I really enjoyed it. You know, sometimes they put a character in a mantle and it doesn't work. I think you take James Gordon as Batman and Sam Wilson as Captain America, those things for me haven't worked. But then there were other times when it just really fits and works, like Bucky as Captain America, or Dick Grayson as Batman, or Laura as Wolverine. She's really stepped into the role well. The book has done a really good job of setting up who she is and where she's at in her life. That yeah, she might be one of the best at killing, but she doesn't want to kill. So I like that character journey that we've got for the main character. This issue also does a great job of answering some of the questions we had from the first issue. How did she know about the assassination attempt? Who are these people that would attempted assassination? So we get a lot more answers, and we get deeper into the story this issue as we find that there are these clones of Wolverine, and they do not have her healing factor, but they've been experimented on and had things done to them, and kind of the book is kind of the people who she's trying to save. You kind of don't know, are they the good guys or the bad guys, and even like Wolverine herself has doubts, and kind of, so I really liking how they're writing it. We don't know who the villains are yet. We've got an inkling, and I think by the end of the issue we kind of see everything isn't black and white in this book. The character of Wolverine, she's really been written consistent to what we saw in All New X-Men. So if you read that book, this book you could pick up because her character's consistent with how she was in that book. But yeah, I'm so far 2 issues in, I'm really loving All New Wolverine. It's one of my comics of the week, and I would have given it 5 out of 5. So next up we have Justice League 3001. Issue number 6. We have written by Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis with art by Colleen Durham. This was a book I was considering dropping because there were so many books come out last week. I was starting to look at my pull list, seeing are there any books that I could call, and this was one of them. And it wasn't that it was a bad book, it was just that I didn't feel we were getting any answers. They've added so many characters all the time to the cast that existing storylines aren't getting resolved. And I just left there, you know? And so I was considering dropping it, but then I read this issue and this was bloody brilliant. And yeah, it has the same problems we've been having. It doesn't solve anything. There are still a lot of plot lines that haven't been concluded, that haven't been wrapped up. And that are dangling. And yeah, they had even more characters this issue, but I just bloody loved the story. It was really good. It was funny, it was entertaining, there was action, and there was a shocking conclusion. It just had everything I would want in a comic book. So breaking it down, I love the interaction at the beginning of this book between Supergirl and Tina. Tina Sung is this girl on Takno Galos, this prison planet. She's been born on the planet, and she now is like the new Batman. So Batman from our Justice League and Supergirl have kind of gone there, and they've kind of tracked her down, and they go to like kind of like the sheriff of this planet, and he's like, well, I can't arrest her, it's a prison planet, you know. And she was born here and she chose to stay here. So like they find out that she's like a distant relation of Batman, so they're gonna take her back. But then we have these characters called the Scullions who get introduced, and they had a very much, to me, had a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy kind of feel to these characters. They serve somebody called the Lord of all beings and things, and they're these robots that can kind of when they get destroyed, they kind of keep coming back. And so we get them going up against Supergirl and Batman, because for some reason they want to kill Batman. And so like we introduce these new characters without resolving anything that's been going on. I like that we got Tina's backstory, and like I said, I did like these characters, the Scullions. I thought they were really entertaining. We introduced the new Harley Quinn of this century, but like she gets pretty much killed. We get like a backstory and then she's killed, and it's kind of like, why did you waste those pages giving us the backstory, you know? Because you just took up space that didn't need to be taken up, you know. That's my only gripe with the book, which is only a slight gripe. We have a guest artist on this issue in Colleen Durham, and I think she does a really good job. I love Porter's art, and I think he is top notch on this book. But I think as a fill-in, she did a really good job here, and I liked her art. The conclusion to the book is just shocking, and it looks like there's big changes coming up. I still am concerned that they're not finishing any stories, and I'm still concerned they're adding too many characters. But this book was such a joy, I couldn't drop it, and it became one of my comics of the week. So yeah, Justice League 3001, issue number 6, one of my comics of the week, and would have got a 5 out of 5. So next up we have from Image Comics, we have Jupiter's Circle, volume 2, issue number 1. This issue we take a look at the Utopian and Lady Liberty. They're basically Miller's versions of Superman and Wonder Woman, and it's a really interesting issue. It's set in the 50s, as all this series has been, and it's just like kind of like classic Superman, and this awesome guy, and has no real vices, and he's just a generally good bloke. And you got his wife, who's basically the Lois Lane of this world, and he does all these things for her, and she doesn't have a normal life. And while they don't say it's a problem in the book, you can see that there's an undercurrent there. And he takes her for the anniversary to have a picnic on the moon, and he finds this secret city. So we've got this mystery of what is this city. So that was really cool. We then have Lady Liberty, the Wonder Woman of this world, and she is very lonely because she gives off this aura. So when men kind of get close to her, they kind of become all good and don't think themselves kind of worthy. So she can't get a bloke because of this side effect of her powers. And so she's very lonely, and I found it really interesting and kind of tragic as well. She's this great superhero who you think got everything. She's good looking, she's successful, she's a hero, but then she just can't attain that relationship to someone to share the good with. So I really enjoyed this. This was just a real absolute joy. You kind of have to read in this book. You do have a hunger to see Mark Millar write Superman because he does such a great job here. But yeah, this was just a great book, and if you've not been reading it, I'm pretty sure with Image, the way they bring books out, you can go and pick up the first trade, because this has been a really great book. And I'm going to give Jupiter Circle Volume 2, issue number 1, we've got 5 out of 5, and it's one of my comics of the week. So our final comic of the week is Groot, issue number 6, and even though on the cover it says rated teen, this for me is an all ages book. And I always say, it's one of the things I feel strongly about, is that there should be more all ages book. Now sometimes when I say all ages books, people misunderstand what I say. I don't mean like kind of like a child's book, kind of a book that's a bit, no disrespect, but dumbed down, and is very simplistic. I don't mean that. But like, I mean going back to my youth, which like, yeah, we're going way back here. When in the 80s when I started reading comics, you know, the comic books worked on 2 levels, and I know some of those comics I've gone back to now, and there's like an entire subtext there I never picked up on as a child, and that's what I mean by all ages. Kind of think The Simpsons. You can sit and watch The Simpsons as a family, and there'll be like fart jokes, and there'll be people doing slapstick comedy that the kids will laugh at, but then there'll be some kind of social commentary in there sometimes as well, and jokes and gags that only adults would get. So it's kind of playing to 2 audiences, but in one show. And that's why I kind of mean by an all ages book. That it's a book that can be shared as a family. There might be some kind of subtext of it going on, but it's not as blatant as the comics are today, where, you know, there ain't no subtlety to what they do. There's like, oh yeah, we've got sex, we've got violence, and there's no subtlety to it. Like back in the days, things would be intimated to. So as an adult, you kind of get what's going on, but as a kid, it's totally over your head, and you're just enjoying seeing these colourful superheroes in great adventures. So that's what I mean by an all ages book, and for me, Groot is the perfect all ages book. It plays off 2 characters from the highly successful Guardians of the Galaxy movie. It's a lot of fun. It has a heartwarming conclusion to it, and I just really loved it. The basic story is that at last Rocket and Groot have got to Earth, and they've got this list from people of things they should do while they're on Earth. So we have loads of hilarity as they're doing their various things on Earth, which is really fun. And then at the end of the story, we kind of get Groot's backstory and why he's not with his people anymore. And it all kind of comes back to Earth, and he's trying to find this woman that he saved from his planet, because his people on his planet were pretty mean. And so he find this woman who showed him that there's kindness in the galaxy, and kind of thank her. And I really liked it. It was a lovely, heartwarming end to what had been a really delightful book. It's definitely, for me, a book you can share with your kids, even though it's rated T for teen. It's just really fun book. The art is really great, and yeah, more like this please, Marvel, more like this. So Groot issue number 6 for me is one of my comics of the week, and gets 5 out of 5. So those are my comics of the week. Next up, it's the rest of the books in rapid fire reviews. So here I am now with the rest of my books to review. We've got, I think it's 17 books to review this week, so let's see how quick we can do these in. First up, we have Hellboy and the B.P.R.D. 1953, The Witch Tree and Rawhead and the Bloody Bones. I really liked this book. It's basically their 2 ghost stories, but they're kind of in a one and done way. And I'm not usually a fan of like books with kind of these kind of self-contained stories, but I totally could go for an ongoing of these kind of ghost stories with Hellboy. And I always forget the professor's name. Professor Trevor Buttonholm, because you've got Professor Buttonholm and Hellboy. They're caught to these different cases in England where there's a haunting going on, and they kind of have to solve it and diffuse it. Really great stuff. Both stories were really great, and yeah, like I say, I could really go an ongoing of this kind of book. I'd give Hellboy and the B.P.R.D. 953 5 stars out of 5. Next up, we have Batman and Robin Eternal. Issue number 8. This was again Genevieve Valentine. We had 3 artists on the book though, which it does feel like Batman and Robin Eternal is a lower priority than Batman Eternal was, which is a shame, especially if they're asking you to commit weekly. I'm still loving the mystery of Mother and kind of her involvement with Bruce Wayne, which looks at the moment really bad. The highlight of the issue for me was Dick Grayson's decision. Does he choose to help Harper Row and Cassandra Cain, or does he choose to go with Mother and get some answers? And he really, again, it was a great character moment. And I'm still really enjoying this. I give Batman and Robin Eternal 4 stars out of 5. We then have Grayson, issue number 14. This was a lot of fun again. It was disappointing we got no Mikhail Yanin on art, which is always disappointing because I just love his art so much. We get secrets uncovered this issue as we kind of learn more about Spiral and their history and how it relates to Agent Zero. It does seem like Robin War is going to interrupt this book, because kind of we just set up this really interesting story now where Grayson is getting nearer to like getting to the bottom of what's going on with Spiral, and it just does really seem like Robin War is going to just interrupt the hell out of this story that is going to come at the wrong time. Throughout the book we have kind of glimpses of the past mixed in what's happening in the present, and I think the balance there was really well done. So I'd give Grayson issue 14 4 stars out of 5. We then have Robin, Son of Batman, issue number 6. This very nearly made it onto my Comics of the Week. I really enjoyed this book. It is a really great issue that wraps up beautifully what we've been having in the book. I love the resolution of the whole Nobody storyline. That's really good. And also what's going on with Talia and Damien, and that gets wrapped up, and Goliath as well. So there's a lot of kind of closure here as Damien kind of learns what's happened in Endgame and that his father may be dead, and his reaction to that, and him now having to go back to Gotham. So I really loved it. It just really fills in everything, all the questions you had. It kind of answers a lot of them. It wraps up this story beautifully while leaving enough rope to keep us dangling for the next issue. Really love this. Robin, Son of Batman, issue number 6 would get 5 out of 5. We then have We Are Robin, issue number 6. This is written by Lee Bergenbo with art by Jorge Corona. This was again a really satisfying conclusion to the first arc, as it kind of, our main Robin characters this issue are kind of exposed on television, and now things are going to get real for them. It's kind of like a total different thing now. I love the interactions between the Robins and the Talon that they're battling, and they're kind of like they're both kind of operate in a similar way but have different ways of achieving the same goal. They've got, because that's more what I mean to say. They've got the same goal but they've got different ways of achieving it, and I like that kind of difference. And there were some great moments in this book. Really enjoyed this. I give We Are Robin, issue number 6 5 out of 5. Next up we have He-Man The Eternity War, issue number 12. The bulk of the issue is taken up with Adam trying to win back his body, because he's been taken over by Hiss, who is getting more and more control, but Adam is fighting back, and we get to see that struggle as Adam tries to regain his body and his soul, basically. It's just a real great joy to read from start to finish. We get a little bit of history, and I'm loving how like the modern He-Man books are kind of taking this kids show that didn't really have that much depth, but they're adding a lot of depth, adding a lot of history to it, that I'm really loving. And I'd give He-Man The Eternity War, issue number 12, 5 stars out of 5. We then have Superman, issue number 46, which was a really interesting issue. Superman's kind of in this kind of fight club for gods, where but it's not exactly a fight club. It's kind of predetermined, because as long as a god story is told, a god isn't truly dead. So he's enacting these stories for people, and he finds he's getting this adulation from the crowd that he used to get as Superman, and he's kind of getting hooked on that, and he's liking this new lifestyle, while at the same time he's still trying to find answers to like the questions he's got and what's been going on. We get Jimmy Olsen trying to find him, which leads to a great moment between Superman and Jimmy, and you kind of like, Superman's trying to save Jimmy. He doesn't want to put nobody in harm's way. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. We also have Howard Porter on art, so you get some really great art this issue. All in all, I'd give Superman issue number 46, yeah, 46. I'd give it 4 stars out of 5. So next up we have Superman Wonder Woman issue number 23. I really like they have to team up with Parasite in this issue, and I loved the kind of back and forth between Parasite and Wonder Woman. I thought that was really cool and very entertaining. I've got my notes in front of me, that's why I keep looking up, and I've lost my place on my notes. I've got it back now. I found the end a bit confusing to this, but after I reread it a bit, it kind of clicked. But yeah, all in all, I'm enjoying this, particularly the Wonder Woman Parasite stuff, and it's loads of action, and the art by Magick is just gorgeous. So I'm going to give this 4 stars out of 5. We then have Superman Lois and Clark issue number 2. This issue, kind of, they get found by the authorities and kind of have to get away from them, which leads to an interesting sequence. I'm really enjoying this book. It's so good having the classic version of Superman back, but throwing this classic version of the character into the currently New 52, I think is a real interesting thing to do. I'm just loving the story, and also to have Lois and Clark as a couple. And I'm enjoying that as well. And we've also got the mystery of what's happened to Henshaw, because like this Superman is kind of, he knows this is different to his reality, and he's trying to stop all these different characters becoming the villains they become. And he tried to get to Henshaw before he becomes Cyborg Superman, but Henshaw has kind of disappeared. So now Clark is kind of like, you know, we've got this mystery of what did happen to Henshaw. But yeah, really enjoying this book. Give Superman Lois and Clark issue number 2 5 stars out of 5. So next up we have from Image, we have Black Magick issue number 2, written by Greg Rucka with art by Nicholas Scott. It's a black and white book, so that gives it a different kind of vibe. We're setting up a bigger world this issue in this, as we're learning a bit more about what's going on. We get to see Rowan be a cop, which is really good, and this whole kind of procedural cop thing. But then you've got this side order of witchcraft, and that she's a witch as well, and she's trying to investigate as well as a witch. Who tried to kill her? Where are they from? How did they know who she was? And why do they use magic? Because the usual witch hunters don't use magic. So there's a lot of mystery it's setting up. The art is gorgeous. Rowan is a really interesting character. All in all, I'm just really loving the book, and I give Black Magick issue number 2 5 stars out of 5. We then have Invisible Republic issue number 7. This issue we kind of are dealing with Maya in the present and Maya in the past, as we kind of start to see Arthur become this sinister character, and there's something darker going on where they're hiding than Maya first thought. Then in the present, somebody's trying to kill her, and we kind of don't really know why yet. It's a lot of action. I really enjoyed it. A great start to the next story arc, and I give Invisible Republic issue number 7 4 stars out of 5. We then have Ringside issue number 1 from Image. I bought this because I'm a big wrestling fan, so I thought I'd give this a go. Don't get that it's got wrestling in it, put you off. Wrestling is kind of only the job description for these guys. It doesn't really feature that much in-ring stuff. We followed this old guy called Dan. He's a former wrestler who's got this nice cushy job as a trainer in Japan, but he gets a call from his former tag partner, and he comes back to America to try and help him out, and he gets beaten up by some thugs. So you know some shady dealings are going on here, and his friend's in real trouble. We then follow this young guy called Reynolds, who's just starting out in wrestling and just trying to get on top of the politics to kind of help himself get further in the business. I really liked it. I thought it was a great introduction of the characters. The art was really good, and like I say, don't put you off that it's got wrestling. It's more about the characters than about wrestling, because we set up a few mysteries here, particularly around Dan, of like what's his tag partner been up to, why has he been blackballed by this wrestling company that had no longer had the rights to his name and stuff, what went down there. So there's a lot of mysteries they set up in the first issue. I'm in two minds whether to get the next issue of this, only because my pull list is so big right now. I don't really want to be adding to it. but we will see. But I did enjoy this first issue, and I'd give it 5 out of 5. We then have Saga issue number 31 back. Woohoo! Saga's back, and this was delightful. It wasn't like the best issue of Saga, but I really enjoyed it because we get it from Hazel's perspective. The whole issue is like basically just her and this new kind of prison planet that her and her grandmother are on. So that's really interesting. I really enjoyed that. I found Hazel very funny, and I felt the whole issue kind of builds nicely to its conclusion. So I'd give Saga issue 31 4 stars out of 5. We then have the final issue of Silver Surfer. It is coming back, I think in January it's coming back, but this is the last issue for now. I really enjoyed this. I thought it wrapped up the story lovely. Some great twists and turns. The art is just fantastic. The story is fun, entertaining, engaging. I just loved it. I give Silver Surfer issue number 15 5 stars out of 5. We then have Venom Space Knight issue number 1. I went into this book, it intrigued me, so I picked it up, and I was kind of in two minds. The art, first off, by Ariel Ovaletti is fantastic. I had not heard of this artist before, but I absolutely loved the art here, and I think that was the biggest thing I enjoyed. I think it's a good jumping on point because it introduces who this character is, and you don't really need to have read any Venom before because you kind of get caught up on who he is in the story, which is really good. So that's really good for a first issue. I felt the cliffhanger was weak. I felt the main character felt very generic. It didn't feel like, well, who is Flash Thompson? It felt like it could have been any other kind of any other character just thrown into that role who is heroic and kind and an action hero. I didn't really feel that they kind of fleshed out who Flash Thompson is in this first issue. I did like the ongoing joke of that like Venom does not know who the Ages of the Cosmos are, the group he works for now, but that all these other characters he's interacting with, oh yeah, we know the Ages of the Cosmos. So I did like that running gag. I'm in two minds again with this one, whether to pick up the next issue. While I did feel the cliffhanger was weak and there were weaknesses to the book, I did love the art and I love the premise of the book. So I don't know if I'll come back for the next issue or not, just because I'm trying to cut my pull list down. But I did really enjoy the first issue of this, and give Venom Space Knight issue number 1 4 stars out of 5. We then have our penultimate book this week. It is Star Wars Chewbacca issue number 4, which is the penultimate book in my reviews, and it's the penultimate book of the series. Chewbacca here, I really enjoyed this story. I like what's going on with Chewbacca, and I think they've done a great job of telling the story. The young girl is kind of growing on me, and she gets less annoying issue by issue. And this book's just been a lot of fun. I'd give Chewbacca issue number 4 4 stars out of 5. So our final book, it is Star Wars Darth Vader issue number 13, which has part 2, if you can see at the bottom there. Part 2 of Vader Down. This was great. Vader is just badass in this issue. He's just kicking everybody's ass. It's kind of like Vader versus the entire Rebel Alliance on this planet, and he's just kicking ass. It is awesome. I love this great moment between Han and Leia, where Leia is kind of obsessed with getting Vader, that he's one of the people she holds responsible, because he was in the room when Tarkin ordered Alderaan to be destroyed, so she kind of wants to bring Vader to justice. But then Han is like, well, we need to go and save Luke, and she's like, no, screw Luke, I want to get Vader. And it's kind of this really interesting moment as she's kind of so blinded by her thirst for vengeance that she's kind of going down this different path, damn everybody else, where Han is still like, we need to save our friend. So I really loved that conflict, and it felt consistent with the characters, and it was great for one scene Leia kind of really emote how huge her home planet getting destroyed was. So that was really good. I like that all the characters seem to be heading to the same final destination. That's really cool to see, and the art here I enjoyed as well. So I'd give Star Wars Darth Vader issue number 13 4 stars out of 5. So those are my reviews. Whew, breathe. 16 minutes and I did like 17 books. That is good. Next up, we've got just one book left to review, and that book is my pick of the week. So our final review of the week is the pick of the week, and this week from Valiant Comics it is Ivar Timewalker issue number 11, written by Fred Van Lente with art by Perez. I just really love this book. It just gets better and better and better. There's some great twists and turns throughout the book. We get this kind of a character who comes to like a major character point and makes a major decision. We then get a return of a character. We then get a really twist with what happened to the first character. And yeah, the book is just fan-bloomin-tastic. I really, really enjoyed this book. And it's the thing with all the Valiant books, the deeper you get into the story, the better they get. And this was another book that is just tremendous. I love the twist at the end, how the one character tries to change everything and how everything will go down, but in actual fact it just leads to her being where she didn't want to end up. So I really loved that. The whole book is just an absolute joy. I just love it. I thought the ending as well was just fantastic, how that character story goes. And also like this issue we get to see like these different timelines, because basically what's happened is time's been destroyed, so Neela is trying to stop it. Ivar has been killed. She's gone to the past, got a past version of Ivar, and they've kind of travelling through these different realities as each one has been destroyed, and they then manage to get themselves outside of reality so they can see all these different realities. And it's really funny seeing all these different versions of Ivar and Neela and in these different realities is really cool. The whole book was just a real joy and a great thing to read, and it was the book I enjoyed the most this week. So I make Ivar Timewalker issue number 11 my pick of the week. So here we come to the end of the show, and it's time to find out who the company of the week is. What company of the week is each week I take, for example, the books from Marvel. I add the scores together each Marvel book gets. I then divide by the number of Marvel books I've read this week, and it gives me a lovely average score. I do the same then for the Indies and DC, and whoever gets the highest, they are the company of the week. So this week we have a tie in second place. We both got an average rating of 4.5. That is Marvel and DC. They got the 4.5 this week. So company of the week are the Indies, which this week were represented by Dark Horse Comics, by Image Comics, and by Valiant. They got the average rating of 4.75, and so they are the company of the week. So that's that done. I will be back most probably on Tuesday with a review video for the books from the first week of December. As I record this, I've not even started reading them yet, so I've got work to do. Thank you very much for watching this today. Sorry it was late, it's just how things worked out, but I was determined I was going to do a review video, so I eventually got here. Like I say, thank you very much for watching. Please, if you enjoyed this video, give me those beautiful thumbs up. Let me know you like what you're watching. The plan at the moment is I will be back on Tuesday with a review video, and then back on Wednesday with a haul video. But as we've seen before, plans don't always work out, but that is the ongoing plan at the moment. I hope you've all had a great week and you're all well. Really, all that's left for me to say is thank you very much for watching. I've been Jason, coming to you from the Dude Cave with my comic book reviews. Bye for now.